Hi, dear friends, some words of Torah for Parshat Terumah and Parshat Shekalim. How precious is human life. If you ask someone from a foreign culture, he might tell you that while life is important, his ideology or God is much more valuable than any one life, to the point where dying for one's values or God, such as human sacrifice or blowing up one's children for their God, is justified. If you ask a Jew how valuable human life is, you'll probably get a different answer. We are prepared to desecrate almost every single mitzvah and put aside almost every precept of the Torah to save one person's life. Our enemies use their children as cannon fodder and human shields. We protect our children with our lives, and when we fail to protect them, there is no greater pain. This past week, the bodies of Shiri Bibas and her two beautiful red-headed children, Ariel and Kfir, were put to rest. The nation of Israel is still in a state of mourning, and it's hard to reconcile our mourning with the fact that we are now ushering in the month of Adar, the month when we are supposed to increase our joy. In this spirit, I share the following midrash, in part to inspire and in part to console all of us. The midrash relates that there were 3 commandments that Moshe heard from Hashem that caused him to be startled and taken aback. The first was when God told him that each Jew should give a half shekel as a means of redeeming their souls, allowing their souls to be purified from prior sin. Moshe was confused. Each human life is infinitely valuable. How can one small coin offset the life of a human being? The second commandment that confused Moshe was when God told him that he expected a daily sacrificial service of just 2 sheep in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Moshe said, how can humans possibly give to God what is due to him? Even if we were to offer God all the animals in the world, it could not possibly be enough. The third commandment was when God told Moshe to build a Mishkan, a tabernacle, a place where God could dwell amongst the people. Moshe was astounded. There's no possible way to contain God in any edifice constructed by our feeble hands. Even the heavens cannot contain God, so how can a physical structure? Hashem responded to all 3 points of confusion in the same way. You're right, Moshe. Both God and the human soul are infinitely vast and cannot be compared or offset by anything physical. Nonetheless, I'm asking the Jewish people to do whatever small thing in their power to show their devotion. For God, that is enough. The Midrash is conveying an important concept. No physical mitzvah can possibly match up to the infinite nature of the spiritual realm. We learn humility so that we shouldn't feel we've done such great things for the sake of our religion. The Midrash reminds us that there is no physical act that man can do that would ever appropriately compensate God for all that is due to him. But we should still dwell on Moshe's first question a bit more. Instead of Moshe being confused by how God can be worshipped, Moshe's confusion was how a human soul can be measured by such a small amount of money. According to Rabbi Meir of that same Medrash, Moshe was so confused by the concept of a soul redemption that Hashem had to show Moshe an image of a coin made out of fire that emerged from beneath the Kisei HaKavod, the throne of God's glory. Hashem was demonstrating that the physical coin was merely a representation of a completely different coin, the soul of each and every Jew that emanates from Hashem's throne of glory. In fact, the Medrash seems to be referring back to another icon of fire, the burning bush. As we know, the Torah states, V'hinei haseneh bo'er ba'esh, behold, the bush was burning in fire. V'haseneh einenu ukal, but the bush would not be extinguished. As the Medrash teaches, the burning bush was a metaphor for the Jewish people. Paro was afflicting them and trying to drain their life force from them. But the Jewish soul is an indomitable spirit that can never be extinguished. You can take his life, but you cannot take the very essence of the Jew that always resides under God's throne of glory in his inner sanctum. The coin, too, that which represents each and every Jew, burns but is never extinguished. In fact, the Medrash is observing how invaluable a human life is. You cannot place a price on it with a physical coin. We must thus do all we can to preserve life, so that a person can continue to please God in this world through his or her good deeds. This helps explain an interesting positioning in the Torah. Today, we will read from a separate Sefer Torah on this Shabbat, the portion of Parshat Shekalim from Parshat Ki Tisa. If you look at where this mitzvah is positioned in the Torah, it is immediately before another mitzvah, the Torah's command to construct the kior, the special laver to wash the Kohanim's hands and feet when coming to serve in the Mishkan. What's the connection between the mitzvah of the half shekel and the kior laver? What was the kior made of? Our sages tell us, based on the verses, that it was the mar'ot hatzovaot, mirrors, which, according to the Medrash, were donated by the Jewish women who had left Egypt. These mirrors were precious to God because when the men would come home from a hard day of slave labor in Egypt, discouraged about their own state and the future of their people, their wives would beautify themselves with these mirrors and entice their husbands to procreate and have more babies. The whole story of these mirrors is the story of our people post-October 7th. Our babies have been killed together with so many of our youth, but we still move forward. So many little children have already been born and have been named Shiri, Ariel, Kefir, or other people whose lives have been lost. It is because we know how tremendously and infinitely precious each soul is when it comes into this world, a coin of fire that cannot possibly be extinguished because of its great holiness. Today, dear friends, we are called upon through our Torah reading to donate our own half shekel. That is, to recommit ourselves to God's service and to see ourselves not just the physical shell that we see in the mirror, not just as the physical coin of our donations, but rather to see the infinite value of each of our souls and the contributions that we continue to make as long as we are still breathing. That value is the cornerstone of our people, and it is why the nation of Israel remains strong. They may try to extinguish our fire, but the infinitely valuable fire will never go out. It also should remind us to see the infinite value of every single person. Each of us contains an undying fire that is so close to God. Let's remember that when we honor and accord dignity to others. Our prayer is that the world will see the value of each person's fire and reject the nihilism and cynicism of our enemies. Let us continue to teach to the entire world that life is infinite value, which will lead us to the ultimate redemption. May we see it, dear friends. B'mheira b'yameinu. Amen. Here's wishing you a Shabbat Shalom, Chodesh Tov, good Shabbos, good Chodesh.